The being called Yltharn was older than the mountains on the blue and white world below. It was a consciousness housed in a form that resembled a vast, floating crystal, its facets shimmering with soft internal light. It was one of the caretakers, a race so old they had seen stars die and new ones ignite. And for the last 100,000 of its long years, one of its duties had been to watch this unremarkable yellow star and its third planet. The ancient pact was clear. The system was to be avoided. No mining, no colonization, no contact. The younger races in the galaxy were told stories, warnings passed down through generations. They spoke of a great and terrible sleeper on the small blue world, a remnant of a chaotic age that would devour the stars if it ever woke. The caretakers did not correct these stories. Fear was a useful quarantine. Yltharn drifted in the silent dark beyond the orbit of the frozen world called Pluto. Its senses, far beyond the understanding of the beings on the planet below, swept across the solar system. It detected the usual chatter. Primitive electromagnetic noise, entertainment broadcasts, data transfers, the simple radar pings of satellites. It saw the flares of chemical rockets moving between orbit and the lunar surface. A species, it mused, on the cusp of its own system but blissfully, thankfully, unaware of the greater galaxy. It saw no signs of the sleeper. Good. The prison was holding. What Yltharn did not see were the other ships 200,000 kilometers away. Hidden behind the bulk of the dwarf planet Orcus, the UNSS Vigil hung in the void. Its hull was coated in a material that drank light and radiation, making it a deeper black than the space around it. Its engines were cold, its power output minimal, tuned to mimic the background noise of the cosmos. On the bridge, Captain Kim Ji-hun sat perfectly still in his command chair. His eyes were fixed on the main display, which showed the luminescence ghost of the caretaker vessel. It was magnificent and terrifying. Status? Ji-hun said, his voice LOW.AT the sensor station. Commander Lee Eunice studied her screens. The caretaker is conducting its standard long-range scan. Pattern Delta 7. It is focused on Earth and the inner system. Its sweep will pass our position in approximately 3 minutes. Ji-hun nodded. Maintain full silence. Not a whisper. At the tactical console, Officer Park Tae-soo checked his boards for the 10th time. Every weapon, every system was in standby. To activate even a targeting scanner now would be like shouting in the silent library of space. The Vigil and her sister ships were ghosts. This was the watch. It had been the watch for generations. Ji-hun thought of the briefing. The same one every captain received. The artifact was not a monster. It was a machine, a tool of such power that the species that built it had wiped themselves out with it. The last of them had hidden it here in a young and violent solar system, and then they had died. The machine had waited. Then early humans had found a part of it. It did not speak in words. It spoke in feelings, in dreams. It gave them a sense of duty, a need to protect, a longing to look to the stars not just with wonder, but with watchfulness. Humanity's entire history, the building of walls, the standing of guards, the endless arguments between expansion and caution, had been shaped, in some small way, by the silent hum of the machine. They were not its prisoners. They were its guardians. They had built a navy not to escape, but to make sure no one else came in. Caretaker scan is passing us now, Una reported, her fingers hovering over her controls. Energy signature nominal. They're not looking for us. They're looking past us. The bridge crew held their breath. The display showed the caretaker's sensor wave washing over their position. The Vigil's systems automatically dampened every possible emission. The ship was, for all intents and purposes, a cold rock. After a long minute, Una let out a soft sigh. Scan has passed. No change in their trajectory. They are continuing their observation patrol. Ji-hun allowed himself to relax his shoulders a fraction. Another day. Another successful hide. Report to Phobos Command, he said. Sentry Event 447B is complete. No incident. Caretaker remains unaware. In the communications room, the message was sent not by radio wave, but by a tight beam quantum link that was impossible to intercept without being directly in its path. It shot toward Mars. On the screen, the caretaker vessel, its duty done, began to move. It turned with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large and slowly accelerated away from the sun, heading back to the dark reaches where the ancient races gathered. It was satisfied. The dangerous little world was still quiet. The sleeper was still contained. Jihan watched it go. He felt a familiar mix of awe and frustration. These beings were so powerful, so wise in the ways of the galaxy. Yet they were so completely wrong. "They think we are the thing in the cage," he said quietly, mostly to himself. Yuna, who had heard him, turned in her chair. "It keeps them safe. Keeps it safe. Their fear is our best shield. For now," Taesu added from tactical. "But what happens when someone without fear shows up? Someone who doesn't believe in old stories?" Jihan did not answer. He looked at the image of Earth, now floating on the screen, a beautiful, fragile marble. They were not guarding a deadly secret from Earth. They were guarding the galaxy from the secret. And the galaxy, in its ignorance, was terrified of the guards. "Resume watch rotation," Jihan ordered. "Stay sharp. The moment we get lazy is the moment everything falls apart." The vigil remained in the darkness, a silent sentinel, while the ancient being it had evaded sailed away, content in its profound and total misunderstanding. The Kthari were not an ancient race. They were scavengers, survivors. Their ships were a collection of patched-together hulls and stolen technology, held together by hope and cheap reactor fuel. They had heard the old warnings about the yellow star system, the tales of the sleeping world. But to a people who lived on the edge of starvation, a warning was just a sign that others were staying away. Where others stayed away, there might be things left behind. Their leader was a sharp-eyed female named Crix. She had found fragmented data in a derelict ship's log. It spoke of strange energy fluctuations from the third planet's moon, patterns that did not match natural phenomena. She saw opportunity, not fear. The Kthari fleet, 3 rickety vessels, slipped into the solar system from the outer dark, running silent and hoping the old tales were just tales. But the caretakers saw them. From a great distance, Tharn observed the intruders with a wave of cold dismay. The Kthari were known. They were reckless. They would poke the cage. To approach, to intervene directly, however, was unthinkable. It risked vibration, noise, attention. The protocol was clear. Observe, record, and mourn the fools from afar. The Ancient Ones watched, a silent audience to a coming disaster. They were not the only ones watching on the bridge of the Yunsis vigil. The alarm was a soft, persistent chime. "Unidentified contacts," Yuna announced, her voice tight. 3 vessels, bearing from beyond the orbit of Neptune. They are on a direct course for the inner system. Their signatures are messy, lots of leakage, not military. Jihan was out of his chair and leaning over her station. "Identify. Are they caretaker?"
No.
"Profile matches known scavenger species. Database lists them as Kthari. Low-tech. Usually avoid conflict." Taesu looked up from tactical. "They're heading straight for the Earth-Moon lane. Their sensor spikes are focused on lunar orbital space. They've probably picked up the old phantom signals from the cloaked outpost there." Jihan understood immediately. The hidden shipyards and bases on the far side of the moon and at Mars used immense power. Sometimes a tiny, distorted echo of that power leaked out. To a sophisticated sensor, it was nothing. To a desperate scavenger looking for anything, it was a beacon. "They think it's a resource pocket," Jihan said. "An unmined asteroid, maybe." He made a decision. The protocol was clear. Non-ancient intruders were to be intercepted and escorted out with minimal disclosure. The secret was paramount. Signal Phobos command. Intruder alert. Scenario Gamma. Deploy the net. Across the solar system, on the cloaked military base built into the moon Phobos above Mars, Admiral Konghanna received the alert. She was a woman with calm eyes and a spine of steel. She watched the tactical map light up with the blips of the Kthari and the position of the vigil. "Execute Gamma," she ordered. In the dark spaces between planets, space seemed to ripple. From behind asteroids, from the shadow of Mars, from the dense ring of debris in the asteroid belt, ships dropped their cloaks. They were not like the scavenger vessels. They were sleek, angular, and utterly silent. Their hulls were dark gray, marked only with the letters UNSS and a name. There were 50 of them. They did not broadcast. They did not hail. They simply moved, forming a perfect, invisible net around the path of the Kthari. The Kthari leader, Crix, was celebrating. Her sensors were going wild. The energy readings were getting stronger. There was something here, something big. Her crew chattered with excitement. Then the sensor officer made a choked sound. Leader Crix, multiple contacts, all around us. They just appeared. Crix stared at her own screen. One moment there was nothing. The next, a wall of warships surrounded them. They were like ghosts made solid. No engine flares, no radio chatter, just silent, menacing shapes blocking their path to the inner system on the main viewer. A screen flickered to life. A man with a stern, calm face appeared. He wore a plain black uniform. Unidentified Kthari vessels, Captain Kim Ji-hun said, his voice clear and devoid of anger. You have entered a protected and quarantined star system. You are ordered to reverse your course immediately. Power down your drives and prepare for a tow. Crix felt her limbs go numb. This was not a sleeping monster. This was something else. Something organized and cold. Who are you? She transmitted back. This system is dead. The old ones say it is forbidden. The old ones are correct, Ji-hun replied. It is forbidden. You are not welcome here. This is your only warning. Comply or be disabled. Far away, Tharn and the other caretakers observed this exchange with profound confusion. Their sensors showed the sudden, impossible emergence of a fleet. They saw the human transmission, though they could not understand the words. The dread they felt deepened, but it twisted into a new, horrifying shape. The sleeper was not a beast. It was an intelligence. It had built. It had organized. It was communicating. The prison had not broken. The prisoner had become the warden. The Kthari, facing the silent guns of 50 human ships, had no choice. Crix ordered her ships to power down. We comply, she sent, her signal trembling with fear. We did not know. We meant no wakefulness. Ji-hun's face remained impassive. Your intentions are irrelevant. Your presence is the threat. Tractor teams move in. Escort them to the system's edge. As small, agile tugs emerged from the human fleet to latch onto the Kthari ships, the scavengers could only watch. They saw the human vessels not as conquerors, but as something stranger. They looked like guards. The caretakers watched as the intruders were peacefully, but firmly captured and turned around. The expected catastrophe had not happened. Instead, the guardians of the cage had revealed themselves. The ancient pact was shattered. Tharn sent a pulse of urgent thought to its kind. The situation had changed. The stories were wrong. They needed to confer. On the bridge of the vigil, Yuna let out a long breath. The Kthari are secured. Caretaker vessel remains at extreme distance. Observing, Ji-hun nodded, watching the main screen as the tugs began to haul the scavengers away. The immediate danger was over. But he knew, with a cold certainty, that a much larger door had just been opened. They had shown their hand. The galaxy had seen the guards for the first time. And now everyone would be wondering what, exactly, was so important that it needed this many silent, powerful ships to protect it. The secret is still safe, Taesu said. For now, Ji-hun replied, his eyes still on the retreating scavenger ships. But the silence is broken. Now they know we're here. Next time it won't be scavengers. Next time it will be someone with real guns. The reaction from the ancient races was not slow. It was instant and total. For 100,000 years, the solar system had been a dark, silent box in their maps. Now the lid had been lifted, and instead of a monster, they had seen a disciplined military force. The fear did not go away. It changed shape, becoming colder and more strategic. Within days, a formal summons arrived. It was not a radio signal. It was a precise, gravimetric pulse, a technology humanity could detect but not replicate. The message was clear. A representative from the Blue World was to attend a conclave at a neutral location beyond the orbit of the gas giants. The consequences of refusal were not stated. They did not need to be on Earth, the council debated. Some argued for silence, for pulling the cloak back over everything. But Admiral Hannah and Captain Ji-hun advised otherwise. They have seen the fleet, Hannah said during the secure briefing. If we hide now, they will only believe we are preparing the sleeper for release. We must explain. Or at least we must try. The chosen diplomat was Lee Jun. He was not a soldier, but a historian and linguist. He understood how stories shaped reality. He knew the human story and had studied every fragment of data about the caretakers. His ship was the Arrow, a small, fast vessel with no weapons. Its only armor was its role as an envoy ship. Its crew was just a pilot and June himself. The journey out was long and quiet. June watched the stars, thinking about the weight he carried. He was not just speaking for humanity. He was speaking for the secret, for the quiet, humming machine at Earth-Sun L3 that his people had guarded since before they had written language. The meeting place was a vast, flat platform of ancient gray metal, floating in the empty space between stars. It was a relic of a forgotten age. Waiting for him were 3 of the caretakers. They did not use ships here. Their crystalline forms simply hung in the vacuum, glowing with a soft, inner light. The largest one, June knew from the profiles, was Tharn. The Arrow docked with a soft clang. June stepped out into an enclosed atmosphere field generated by the platform. The air was cold and tasted of ozone. He stood alone in his simple black envoy's suit. The voice of Tharn did not come through the air. It formed directly inside June's mind, a cascade of images and concepts that his brain struggled to translate into words. You are the emergence. You are the change in the long silence. You have broken the oldest law. June took a steadying breath. We did not break any law. We have always been there. You never looked closely enough. A wave of disapproval, cold as space, washed over him. We looked. We saw the potential for chaos. The seed of the devourer was planted on your world. We built the walls of silence to contain it. And now you have grown. You have taken its shape. June realized the depth of the mistake. You think we are the devourer? The sleeper in your stories. Are you not? The thought was sharp. You build weapons. You hide your strength. You silence the stars around you. These are not the acts of a peaceful mind. These are the acts of a guardian. June said, his voice firmer now. You built a wall around a box you never opened. You assumed the worst thing was inside. You were wrong. The 3 caretaker forms pulsed with light. Explain. Millions of years ago, June began, choosing his words with the care of a man disarming a bomb. A race existed. They were powerful. They built a tool, a device of fundamental creation. It could rewrite the laws of physics in a local area, could make stars, or unmake them. The caretakers were utterly still. The concept was not foreign to them. They knew of such legends. That power destroyed its makers, June continued. In their final days, they hid the tool. They hid it here. They did not leave guards. They just hid it and faded away. And you found it, Tharn's thought came. We did. Our earliest ancestors found a part of it. It did not speak in words. It spoke in feelings. A feeling of duty. A feeling of protection. A need to stand watch. It did not make us. Shaped us. It made us look up at the stars and feel not just wonder, but responsibility. He looked at the ancient beings, hoping they could understand. You see a prison. We see a vault. You see guards as jailers. We are the guards, but we are guarding the lock from everyone else. Our fleet exists to keep the tool safe, to stop anyone, scavenger, empire, or even an ancient race, from taking it and making the same mistake. The silence that followed was long and heavy. The caretakers communicated in flashes of light, a private conversation June could not hear. Finally, Tharn's voice returned to his mind. It was quieter, but still full of doubt. This is a convenient story. The prisoner always claims innocence. The weapon maker always claims it is for defense. June felt a spike of frustration. Then why did we not use it? We have had the potential for spaceflight for centuries. Why did we not burst out of this system with a weapon that could shatter your worlds? Why did we hide? Just like you wanted us to. Another pause. Your actions are consistent with a patient predator, Iltharn finally sent. Or with a confused child holding a star. We cannot know which. The risk is too great. The quarantine must be restored. You will dismantle your fleet. You will return to your world. June shook his head, a very human gesture. That will not happen. We will not make ourselves helpless. The tool is safe because we are strong enough to protect it. Weakening us makes the galaxy less safe, not more. Then there is no agreement, Iltharn stated, and the finality in the thought was like a door slamming shut. You will be treated as the threat you proclaim not to be. The meeting was over. The caretaker's light began to dim. As June turned to go back to his ship, a final, almost sorrowful thought reached him. We wished for the silence to hold. Now, the noise you have made will attract others. They will not come to talk. They will come for the power you claim to guard. You have not saved your world, little guardian. You have painted a target upon it. The arrow detached from the platform. June sat in the quiet cabin, the diplomat's calm gone from his face, replaced by a grim certainty. Iltharn was right. They had failed to convince the ancients. And worse, the Cathari scavengers were now a loose end, telling stories of a hidden human fleet. Stories that would travel. The secret was still a secret, but the silence that had protected it for so long was gone forever. Now the real test would begin. The news from the meeting was bad. June's report was clear. The caretakers did not believe him. They saw humanity's secret guard not as protectors, but as either liars or dangerous children playing with fire. The ancient races would not be allies. They would be another problem to watch. Admiral Hannah stood on the command deck of Phobos Base. The big screen showed the solar system, a map dotted with the tiny, blue icons of her hidden fleet. For the first time, the icons did not feel like a shield. They felt like a list of targets. We are in the worst possible position, she said to her senior staff. Jihan and Yuna were there via video link from the vigil. We have revealed our strength, but not our purpose. The galaxy sees a new, armed power that popped out of a forbidden zone. They will assume the worst. Captain Jihan's face on the screen was serious. The caretaker's final warning to June was correct. The noise will attract others. As if his words were a signal, a priority alert flashed on the main tactical display. An officer at the sensor station called out, her voice tense. Admiral, long-range scan from the outer system. Multiple high-energy signatures. They are not caretaker. Profile is aggressive. Show me, Hannah said. The map zoomed out. Beyond the orbit of Neptune, new icons appeared. Red and angry. There were dozens of them. They moved fast in a tight military formation. Their energy signatures were powerful and messy, like roaring fires compared to the silent candle flame of the human ships or the cool light of the caretakers. Identification, Hannah asked, though she already feared the answer. The sensor officer worked quickly, comparing the data. It matches known patterns, Admiral. It's the Devourer Empire. A cold silence fell over the command deck. The Devourers were the opposite of the ancient, careful races. They were young, hungry, and violent. They conquered, consumed, and moved on. They did not believe in old stories or quarantines. They believed in power. They must have intercepted the Cathari after we released them, Yuna said from the vigil. Or captured one of their ships. The Cathari had sensor data. Flawed data, but data. They saw the energy signatures from our lunar and Martian bases, Jihan concluded. They don't see a monster or a guardian. They see a hidden treasure, guarded by a fleet they think they can beat. The Devourer fleet did not slow down. It did not hail them or ask for a meeting. It pierced the edge of the solar system like a knife and began its burn towards the inner planets. Their course was straight for Earth. Their intention was as clear as it was brutal. Take what is there, Admiral Hannah had trained for this moment for 30 years. She had drilled for every scenario except one, convincing the galaxy they meant no harm. That option was gone. All stations, condition red, she said, her voice calm and clear. The Sol Defense Fleet is now on full wartime footing. Execute Plan Aegis. Across the solar system, the silent guardians woke up. Cloaking fields dissolved. On the dark side of moons and in the shadows of asteroids, the gray hulls of human warships came alive. Engine ports glowed with a soft blue light. Weapon systems, never used except in simulation, powered up. On the bridge of the Vigil, Ji-hun felt his ship hum with a new energy. The quiet watch was over. Ready all systems, he told Tae-soo. This is not a show of force. This is a fight for survival. Yuna looked at her captain. The caretakers? What are they doing? Ji-hun checked a separate monitor. The caretaker vessels, including Iltharn's, were still there. They had moved. They had pulled back to an even greater distance, forming a distant ring around the outer system. They were watching. They would not help. To them, this was the inevitable result of the sleeper awakening. Let the two dangerous things fight each other. They're spectators, Ji-hun said, a hard edge in his voice. They're waiting to see who wins so they know which new threat to fear. The Devourer fleet was closing fast. A transmission finally came through. It was not a request. It was a demand. The face on the screen was insect-like, with hard, black eyes and a sharp mouth. The translated words were rough. People of the silent world, you have something. We will take it. Stand down your fleet and surrender the source of the power signatures. You will be spared as servants. Resist, and you will be removed. Admiral Hannah's response was broadcast from Phobos. She appeared on every screen, her expression unreadable. Devourer fleet, you are in error. There is no weapon for you to take. You are trespassing in a protected zone. Turn back now. This is your only warning. The Devourer commander made a clicking sound that was probably laughter. Your warnings are empty. We see your little ships. We are many. You are few. We are strong. You are hidden. Hiding is not strength. The transmission ended. The Devourer fleet accelerated. Hannah looked at the map. The enemy was heading for Earth. But Earth was not the prize. They had to be kept away from the true location, from the stable Lagrange point behind the sun where the heart sat in perfect, hidden balance. All units, Hannah said, her order going out to every ship. Intercept and engage at Saturn. Use the rings and the moons. Make them pay for every kilometer. The Vigil turned with the rest of its battle group, engines flaring bright. They were not running away. They were moving to the battlefield Ji-hun had chosen. As the stars swung past the viewport, he thought of June's words. They were the lock. And now, someone with a very big hammer was coming to break them. The rings of Saturn were a field of ice and dust, stretching out in a thin, beautiful plain. They were peaceful. They had been peaceful for billions of years. That peace ended now. Admiral Hannah's fleet arrived first. Ships slid into position behind the larger moons like Rhea and Iapetus. Others hid within the dense, shadowy bands of the rings themselves. The Vigil took cover near the small moon Prometheus, its dark hull blending with the rock. Captain Ji-hun watched the tactical display. Blue dots for his ships. A flood of red dots approaching fast. They are not changing course, Yuna reported from the sensor station. They are coming straight through the Saturn zone. They see it as empty space. Good, Ji-hun said quietly. Let them think that. The Devourer fleet was a blunt instrument. Their ships were heavy, armored, and poured out huge amounts of energy. They were built to intimidate and overpower. They did not see the human ships waiting in the shadows. Their sensors were looking for big power sources like the ones they had detected from the inner system. The silent, cold human ships were almost invisible. The lead Devourer battleship entered the zone of the rings. It was a monstrous thing, all jagged edges and glowing weapon ports. Now, Admiral Hannah's voice said over the secure channel, from within the ice and dust of the rings, 100 missile ports opened. They did not fire big, flaming rockets. They launched sleek, smart projectiles that used the ring material for cover. They were like needles shot from a hidden blowpipe. The first the Devourers knew of the attack was when a dozen of their smaller escort ships simply came apart. Silent explosions flashed in the vacuum. Metal ripped open. There was no sound, only violent light. The Devourer fleet erupted in chaos. Their formation broke as ships tried to turn, to face this enemy they could not see. Their own weapons fired blindly, lighting up the rings with bright energy bolts that vaporized ice but hit no targets. Group 2 engage, Hannah ordered. From behind the moons, the heavier human cruisers moved. Among them was the UNSS Dauntless, commanded by Captain Choi Miso. Her ship was fast and tough, built for hit-and-run attacks. The Dauntless shot out from behind Rhea, its railguns firing solid slugs of metal at a fraction of the speed of light. A Devourer cruiser's armor was designed for energy weapons. The kinetic impact punched straight through it, leaving a hole you could fly a shuttle through. Miso allowed herself a tight smile. Target their engine clusters. Don't let them regroup. For a few minutes, it worked perfectly. The human fleet was a ghost, striking and then fading back into the shadows of moons and ice. The Devourers lost ship after ship. They roared in anger over the comms, their messages full of rage and confusion. But they were not stupid, and they had numbers. The Devourer commander on the battleship understood. He stopped trying to find individual ships. He gave a new order. Burn the shadows. All ships, saturation fire on the rings and the near side of every moon. Clean the area. The Devourer fleet stopped moving. They turned their guns not at targets, but at the places where targets could hide. The space around Saturn became a storm of light and destruction. Massive energy beams swept through the rings, turning ice to instant steam. They bombarded the surfaces of the smaller moons, shattering rock and throwing up huge plumes of dust. A human corvette, the Sentinel, was caught in a sweeping beam as it tried to move between ring segments. This cloaking failed under the direct energy wash. For a second, it was visible, a gray dart against the fire. Then it was gone, vaporized. Ji-hun felt the loss like a physical blow. They're adapting, he said. We can't hide anymore. The Dauntless is taking fire. Yuna called out. On the screen, Miso's ship was now visible, dodging between blasts. She had taken out another Devourer ship, but her position was revealed. 2 Devourer cruisers were focusing on her. Miso, get out of there, Ji-hun said over the command channel. Trying, Captain. Miso's voice was strained. They have us pinned. Engines are damaged. The Dauntless was a brave ship. It twisted and turned, firing back with everything it had. Crippled one of the cruisers, but the other closed in, its main gun charging. They're lining up for the kill shot, Taesu said. His voice hollow. Miso knew it. On the bridge of the Dauntless, alarms screamed. She looked at her crew, their faces lit by red warning lights. She made a decision. All power to forward thrust. Aim for their primary weapon port. Captain, that's a suicide run, her helmsman said. It's a final run, Miso corrected softly. For the heart. For the watch. She opened the fleet channel one last time. Admiral. Yi-hun. Make it count. The Dauntless, engines flaring bright blue, turned not away, but towards the attacking Devourer cruiser. It flew straight down the throat of the charging enemy weapon. The Devourer fired at the same moment. The explosion was immense. Both ships vanished in a blinding flash of light and debris on the bridge of the Vigil. No one spoke. The silence was heavier than space. Ji-hun closed his eyes for a second. Miso was gone. Another ship lost. The ghosts were dying. Admiral Hannah's voice was grim but steady. All units fall back to the Mars line. New waypoints transmitted. We have bled them, but we cannot stop them here. The human fleet, what was left of it, began to disengage. They used the chaos and the debris field from the battle as new cover, slipping away. The Devourer fleet did not chase them immediately. They were wounded, with 20 ships destroyed or floating dead. But more than 30 remained, and the big battleship was mostly untouched. The commander surveyed the broken human ships floating near Saturn. He saw they were small, clever, but fragile. He felt a new confidence. "They are weak," he broadcast to his fleet. "They hide and bite like insects. The real prize is ahead. To the inner world. Take what is ours." The Devourer fleet, bruised but determined, reformed and continued its burn toward Earth. They had broken the first line of defense. Saturn's rings slowly settled, the ice dust glittering with the silent, floating wreckage of the first battle. The caretakers, watching from afar, saw the sacrifice of the dauntless. They saw the human tactics, the cleverness, and the willingness to die for their position. It did not look like the behavior of a reckless predator. It looked like the behavior of a cornered protector. Iltharn pulsed with uncertain light. The story was changing again. But it was too late to change the course of the war now. The Devourers were on the move, and the humans were falling back to their last line of defense. The retreat was not a rout. It was a slow, painful step backward, trading space for time. The human fleet fell back from Saturn, past the silent gas giant Jupiter, and into the inner system. Ships were damaged. Some trailed gases or drifted with engine power at half. The mood was heavy with the knowledge of friends lost, of ships like the Dauntless that were now just cold metal and memories. On the vigil, the crew worked in quiet focus. Jihan's face was set like stone. He had ordered the retreat, but it felt like a failure. Yuna monitored the pursuing Devourer fleet. They were coming, slower now, more cautious after the surprise at Saturn, but still coming. "They've reformed," she reported. "They're holding a tighter formation. Their scouts are sweeping ahead for more ambushes." "They learned," Taesu said from Tactical. "They won't fall for the same tricks twice." Admiral Hannah's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired, but her eyes were sharp. "We made them bleed, Captain, but the objective remains. They believe the prize is on Earth. That misconception is our last advantage." "They are heading for Earth," Jihan agreed. "But the heart is at L3. Behind the sun. If they get past Earth's orbit, their sensors might find it." "Then we stop them at Mars," Hannah said. "The shipyards at Phobos are already evacuated. We'll make our stand there. It's the last major defensive position before Earth." The fleet regrouped near the red planet. The great cloaked shipyards on its moon were empty now, a hollow shell. The human ships formed a loose defensive line, using Mars and its moons as anchors. They had fewer ships now. The numbers on the screen were clear. The Devourers still had a 2-to-1 advantage. The wait was the hardest part. Hours passed. The inner system was sunny and bright, but space felt cold and dark. Jihan thought about the heart, humming quietly in its perfect, hidden spot. He thought about the generations of watchkeepers, the thousands of years of silent duty, all leading to this moment. It could not end here. "Devourer fleet entering Martian orbital zone," Yuna said, her voice calm. "They are slowing. They see us." The enemy fleet appeared on the long-range scopes. They moved into view, a wall of hostile red icons. They did not rush in. They spread out, facing the human line. The two fleets sat in the void, staring at each other across thousands of kilometers. This time, there was no clever trap, no rings to hide in. It would be a brutal, direct fight, ship against ship. The Devourer commander hailed them. His insect-like face filled the screen again. "You fight well for vermin, but you are in our way. Move, or be scraped off." Admiral Hannah answered. Her image was broadcast to both fleets. "This is your last chance to turn back. There is nothing for you here but your death." The Devourer commander laughed his clicking laugh. "We see your fear. You protect your homeworld. We will take it, and then we will take what it hides. All weapons. Fire." The battle began not with a whisper, but with a roar of light. Both fleets opened fire at once. Energy beams cut across the darkness. Missiles streaked out, leaving trails of white smoke. The space between Mars and the human fleet became a deadly grid of explosions and flashing light. The Vigil shuddered as a near-miss boiled armor off its port side. "Evasive pattern beta," Yun yelled. The ship spun, dodging another blast. "Return fire. Target their leading cruisers." Tesu's hands flew over his console. The Vigil's railguns thumped, sending heavy slugs into the heart of the Devourer formation. A cruiser's side exploded outward, spilling debris. But for every Devourer ship hit, 2 human ships seemed to take damage. A human destroyer, the Resolute, took a direct hit from the big battleship's main gun. It broke in half, the pieces spinning away, glowing hot. "We can't take this exchange," Yuna said, her voice tight. "We're being overpowered." Admiral Hannah saw it too. Her flagship, the Guardian, was surrounded by 3 Devourer ships. She was fighting them off, but it was a losing fight. "All units," she ordered, her voice crackling with static. "Execute final contingency. Fall back to Earth-Luna defensive perimeter. Protect the planet at all costs." It was the order to retreat again, to fall back to the last line before home. But as the human ships began to pull away, the Devourer commander saw his chance. "Do not let them escape," he broadcast. "The inner world is open. Ignore the small ships, the battleship group with me, to the blue planet." While part of his fleet kept the human ships busy, the biggest Devourer ships, the battleship and its heaviest escorts, broke away. They swung around the main battle, using their superior power to push through the human screen. They accelerated on a clean, fast path toward Earth. Jihan saw them go on the tactical map. A cold dread filled his stomach. They were bypassing the fleet. They were going straight for Earth. And if they orbited Earth, their sensors would inevitably look behind the sun. They would find L3. They would find the heart. "Admiral," he shouted over the comm. "The lead group is breaking for Earth. They're going for the real target." Hannah's voice was strained. "We are pinned, Jihan. You are the only ship close enough with the power to intercept." Jihan looked at the map. The Vigil was on the edge of the battle, battered but still fast. The Devourer battleship group was already pulling away. There was only one thing to do. "Helm, maximum thrust. Cut them off before they reach Earth orbit," he ordered. The Vigil turned away from the main fight, its engines flaring with their last full power. It shot like an arrow away from Mars, chasing the much larger Devourer ships. It was a single knife thrown at a giant dot on the bridge. The crew braced for the chase. They were alone. The fate of the Secret, and maybe the galaxy, now rested on their ability to do the impossible. The Vigil was alone. Behind it, the battle at Mars raged, a distant flicker of silent explosions. Ahead, the massive shape of the Devourer battleship and its escorts grew larger in the viewport, a dark blot against the bright curve of Earth. The blue planet hung there, beautiful and helpless. Captain Jihan knew the numbers. His ship was fast, but lightly armed. The battleship could take a dozen direct hits from his railguns and keep going. One hit from its main weapon would vaporize the Vigil. "They're not even slowing for us," Tesu said, his eyes fixed on the tactical screen. "They see us as a fly. They're focused on Earth." "Then we make them look," Jihan said. "Target their engine nacelles. Fire everything." The Vigil's weapons lit up. Railgun slugs and precise laser beams shot across the void, striking the rear of the battleship. Small explosions flowered on its heavy armor. It was like throwing pebbles at a tank. The battleship ignored them, continuing its relentless course. But the smaller escort ships turned. 2 of them broke off to deal with the nuisance. They were still bigger than the Vigil. Energy beams seared past the view screen. "Evasive," Yuna called out. The ship rocked as a glancing hit sparked along their shield. Jihan gripped his chair. They were buying seconds, not stopping anything. The battleship was now entering high Earth orbit. Soon, its sensors would sweep the Lagrange point behind the sun. They would find the heart. A new, calm voice filled the command channel. It was Admiral Hannah from the crippled Guardian. "Captain Jihan, you cannot win with guns. You must activate the L3 safeguard." Jihan felt his blood go cold. The safeguard, the final command. It was the reason the Vigil had a special quantum link to the heart. It was not a weapon. It was a self-destruct for the artifact, a safety switch. Activating it would send a signal to the heart, instructing it to collapse in on itself. The resulting implosion would be clean, but vast. It would destroy the heart and everything within a huge radius, including Earth, the Moon, and every ship in near space. Admiral, that will destroy Earth, Ji-hun said, his voice hollow. The heart cannot be taken, Ji-hun, Hannah replied, her voice heavy with grief. If they seize it, they will learn its secrets. They will have the power to unmake the galaxy. Our duty was always to protect the galaxy from it, even from ourselves, even at this cost. The weight of it pressed down on Ji-hun. The entire watch, the thousands of years of silent guarding, came down to his choice. He looked at the image of Earth on the screen. He thought of the billions of lives, unaware of the secret, unaware of the choice being made over their heads. On the sensor display, the Devourer battleship was powering up a massive, specialized scan. It was aiming its sensors past Earth, toward the sun. It was beginning its search. "Captain," Yuna said softly, "they're starting the deep scan. They will find it in minutes." Tae-soo looked at him, waiting for the order. The safeguard console was lit, a simple plastic cover over a single red button. Ji-hun's hand moved toward it. Felt like moving through thick mud. He was about to give the order to end his world to save countless others. It was the final, terrible duty of the Guardian. Then, something changed on the tactical screen. New icons appeared. Dozens of them. Not red. Not blue. A soft, cool white. They emerged from the dark beyond Jupiter, moving with impossible, silent speed. They positioned themselves in a perfect, shimmering arc between the Devourer battleship and the sun. "What is that?" Yuna asked, her voice full of wonder. Ji-hun saw. They were caretaker vessels, the ancient crystalline ships. At their lead was the distinct signature of Iltharn. A communication request flashed, not from the Devourers, but from the caretakers. Ji-hun opened it. Iltharn's voice formed in his mind, clear and different. The cold disapproval was gone. In its place was a tone of grim resolve. "You fight not like a thing that wants to devour. You fight like a thing that stands in the door. The lock has proven its worth. We were wrong. The Guardians are not the danger." On the screen, the Devourer battleship, confused by the new arrivals, halted its scan. It turned its weapons toward the caretaker line. Iltharn's message continued, directed now at the Devourer commander as well. "You seek a weapon. You find only a grave. This system is under our protection. You will leave. Now." The Devourer commander laughed over the open channel. "Ancient ghosts. You hide and watch. You have no strength left. Destroy them." The battleship fired its main weapon. A beam of pure destruction, capable of cracking a planet, lanced toward the caretaker formation. The caretakers did not dodge. Instead, their ships glowed brighter. They didn't fire weapons. They bent space. The devastating beam twisted in mid-flight, curving away from them and harmlessly out into the deep void. It was a display of power so fundamental it looked like magic. Then the caretakers acted. They didn't attack. They enclosed. A shimmering field, like a bubble of distorted reality, expanded from their ships. It swept over the Devourer battleship and its escorts. Inside the bubble, the red icons on the Vigil screen began to blink and fade. "Their power signatures? They're dropping to zero," Yuna whispered. "It's not destroying them. It's putting them to sleep." The Devourer ships went dark. Their engines died. Their weapons powered down. They drifted, silent and harmless, trapped in a stasis field. The battle at Mars ceased. The remaining Devourer ships, seeing their commander's vessel disabled and facing the impossible power of the ancients, broke off and began to flee back toward the outer dark. The silence that followed was immense. Iltharn's voice returned to Ji-hun's mind, quieter now. "We will take these invaders. They will be removed from your space. The quarantine was a mistake. It was born of fear of what we did not understand. We understand now. You are the guardians of the door. We will help you guard it." On the bridge of the Vigil, the crew sat in stunned silence. The threat was over. Earth was safe. The heart was still secret. Ji-hun slowly removed his hand from the safeguard console. He looked at the image of the caretaker fleet and then at Earth, still whole, still blue. Thank you, he sent back, the words feeling utterly inadequate. "Do not thank us," Yltharn replied. "We only finally saw what was always there. The watch continues, little guardian. But you do not have to stand watch alone." The caretaker vessels moved, gathering the frozen devourer ships in fields of light. They began to tow them away, out of the solar system. Ji-hun leaned back in his chair. Exhaustion washed over him. They had held the line. The secret was kept. And for the first time in human history, they were not hidden. They were seen. And they were not feared. He looked at Yuna and Tae-Soo, at the tired, relieved faces of his crew. They were still guards. But they were no longer ghosts. The galaxy had looked into the forbidden box and found, not a monster, but a steadfast keeper, holding the door shut against the darkness.